What's up, bosses? Welcome to About Her Business, the podcast where we leave all the gossip at the door and get straight down to business. I'm your host, Jate, and today we have the founder and president of WONheart Corp, Miss Delkia Fuller. Now, Miss Fuller truly defines the mission of turning pain into purpose. She's literally took her own personal lived experience and turned it into a nonprofit that now helps others. And she's here today to help us fulfill the mission on what she means business. So, ladies, grab those cups and those notepads and let's get down to it. The meeting is now in session. Welcome, Miss Fuller.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. Are you ready to get into it?
I am. Let's get down to business.
Perfect, perfect. So let's start back to what really originally made you start this journey with entrepreneurship. You had an early living experience with congenital heart disease. Can you share a little bit about your story with our audience?
Absolutely. Okay, so congenital heart disease or congenital heart defect, just to kind of give you an overview, it is the number one birth defect in America. So 40,000 families are affected by this disease, which is about 100 families a day. And so me personally, when I was born, they didn't know I had congenital heart disease. Normally, you find out in gestation around 20 weeks, but my mom went full pregnancy, full term. And honestly, they didn't find out until I was about a week old. Now, if anything about medical, that in itself is a miracle because your heart, there's a hole and it closes up after about 2 or 3 days. Mine's stayed open long enough to get me to the hospital for them to say, something not right. Right? And then the journey starts with them learning that I have congenital heart disease. I've had 5 open heart surgeries at this point. I have I'm bionic woman. I always say I am bionic woman. I have half of my heart is like a cow valve. So I have a bioprosthetic valve. I have all kinds of tins and foils and stitches and all the things, right? So I'm half cow, half woman, and half robot.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, that's what kinda got me into that, like, my lived experience having congenital heart disease.
And again, thank you for sharing with our audience because I'm not as familiar with the disease, but I do not realize what a couple of my family members were experiencing with their kids and the surgeries. And a couple of my classmates as well have gone through the same thing. So thank you for being an advocate and opening it up to our audience. So to bring more awareness to this uncommon and rare disease that's out there.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you as well, how did this disease, in your opinion, shape your purpose now?
Ooh, I love this question. I think for me specifically, when you hear this question, like, "How did this disease shape you?" A lot of times you think of all the negatives. For myself, I've always been optimistic. I feel like I've had no choice but to be optimistic. I've always been a faith girl. And so having to go through not only living through this disease, but having siblings, doing life. I had the typical teenage boys, friends, schools, all the stressors. And so having this disease, complementing adding that with my faith, it just really pushed me to be who and where I am today. Because I think learning not only through this disease, but through life in itself, that I have to give myself grace. And that grace may look different in each season, whether I'm in the hospital or encouraging somebody else while they're in the hospital. And so it really just poured into me to say, this is what faith looks like. And you have to give yourself grace because this thing is uncurable. It's it's nothing that I can do about it. And so I have to learn to live with it and let me and those around me know that this doesn't have a hold of me, but rather I am living with it and not it's taken over me.
I love that. And my nickname for you for the podcast is going to be the walking testimony because it literally is that, y'all. Like, when it comes down to going through whether it's a disease or just trials and tribulations in life, you have to take your faith with you. And I'm telling you, if you stick with your faith and it can literally turn you into, what did you call yourself? The bio woman?
Bionic woman.
Yeah, the bionic woman. It literally can turn you into that, and you will be out here doing things that you doctors told you couldn't do, or
Mhm.
told yourself you couldn't do. It literally starts with your faith. Now, of course, we all go through lessons in life. Let's talk about those in your life. What lessons from your time in clinical and population health have most influenced your approach to how you now serve others?
Absolutely. So my personal experience as the patient actually influenced that because being the one behind the stethoscope, right? It enforces and influences my life on the other side of the stethoscope. I understand what it means to be sitting on that bed. I understand what it means to have questions, to have uncertainties. And so it really brought me to another level of empathy, but then also of sympathy, because you have to have moments where you hold space for others. Just like that last question, learning to not only give myself grace, but give that grace to others and teach them what it looks like to have faith in a season. And so, really, just my personal experience. And then I've been in healthcare for a decade. And so I had no choice. I can't cry for the patient, right? But because of my optimism, because of my lived experience, I was able to be that light. I was able to be that smiling face. I was able to be that grace. And that did nothing but pour back into my cup. And
Oh,
so I lack nothing because the strength that I use from my experience, I pour into others. Then me knowing that I'm helping them out, being light, being grace, only pours back into my cup.
absolutely. And y'all, I'm just Miss Fuller. She makes me so happy when she talks, because right before we started today's podcast, we was having a conversation, and she was just consistently pouring into me, and I was just like, "Girl, no, this is about you," and she was like, "No, no, no," and so
No, this is about us.
exactly. And so it was one of those things of where y'all, she's literally, like I said, the walking testimony. That's literally gonna be a nickname for this entire episode. So y'all just be ready, because I'm telling y'all, with the next questions that are coming, Miss Fuller is about to bring it. So I want to ask you, when did you realize that your experience as a patient could translate into a bigger mission for your community?
When did I realize my experience as a patient could translate? I think the realization was always there. And I say that because as you're going through it, you have this mindset like, this can't be it. I can't be going through this for no reason. I can't be dealing with this all by, for myself, by myself. And so I've always knew like there had to be a reason, right? The testimony. There, I know that there's a testimony at the end of this thing. And so that kind of pushed me. My experience as a patient pushed me, and also really just poured back into me having the faith and being able to give myself grace, because I knew that, okay, this is only trial and triumph for a testimony at the end. And so that's really how my experience as a patient kind of poured into what I do now.
Oh, wow. And again, thank you for sharing with our audience, because when we're patient, sometimes we get embarrassed about the things that we're going through. And so just having the courage to step out there and say, hey, I'm not going to be embarrassed by this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to beat this, and I'm going to help others with it. That takes a lot of courage and power and mindset shifts. So again, thank you for highlighting all those hard things that we as humans have to overcome in order to get to our purpose.
Absolutely. And I do want to stick a pin in that comment, because I don't want people to think it's all dandy and roses, right? Like there are times where I have cried, like cried, and me and God, we was fighting. Right? Because it's like I said, you have this experience of like, I know that I can't be going through this by myself for myself. But when you're in that moment of going through it by yourself and it feel like it's for yourself and there's no other reason, those moments are hard. Those moments can feel constraining. Those moments can even for some people be depressing. And so you have to my motto, my MO is give myself grace, but in those moments, giving yourself grace is hard. You have you have no one. I can speak for myself. Like, I'm the oldest of five. My mama, she a go-getter. It's in me, not on me, right? And so, but also with that, because I've always been the strong one, my mama never seen me cry about nothing when it came to my heart condition. The, the one time she seen me cry, she didn't know what to do because I never cry. Like, from birth to, I would say, 15, that was probably the first time I actually cried in front of anybody who loved me and was going through this experience with me. Because other than that, I was a strong one. I had it all together. My faith got me through. I was able to push. But when that day came, when the pressure popped and I cried, my mom didn't know what to do. And it wasn't because she wasn't there. It wasn't because she was a bad mother. I think that comes from when you hear people say, you can't hold it all in by yourself. You have to express yourself. It's okay to say, I'm not okay. And so when my I'm not okay moment came, for me, it taught me that I have to learn to speak up. Because even in that moment, I was like hiding, trying to wipe my tears. Because I didn't want my mom. I didn't want them to see me in this space. I love being the strong one, right? I love being the one who could bear it all. And so I say all that to say, don't take just the faith part, because you also we're also charged and commanded to rest. Listen, don't get me to preaching, because that's what the Sabbath is for, okay? Like, you are told you are told to pick up your cross, you're told to do the walk, you're told to till the land, but you're also told to rest. You're also told to lay those burdens down. You're also told to take it to the cross. You're also told to go to Jesus and go to the Lord. So there is space. That is where grace comes in. That is where mercy comes in. That is where faith is truly tested, when you're able to say, I'm tired. This is not fun. This is really heavy and I cannot do it anymore. And I've had both of those moments. And that even goes back into you saying, well, what has your experience given you for patience? That moment right there, when I said I was tired and I need some help, because then I became the help for the patient on the other side of that stethoscope that we talked about.
Amen. And you said don't get you to preaching, but I needed that moment of preaching because it's one of those moments of where, and I'm pretty sure there's other women out there where we literally look at rest as a punishment.
Mhm.
And again, I'm very open about burnout in the workplace just because I thought I had to keep going, keep going, keep going. Because in my head, it was about fulfilling the mission and the purpose and consistently helping everybody. So the thing is, I had to go and work on myself. And as you said, we always highlight the pretty spots of healing. We never really talk about those moments where we do have to sit with ourselves and cry our eyes out. And for me personally, it was one of them things of where I would cry my eyes out for a week just to
Mhm.
get past what it was that I went through. But in the end, I promise y'all, once you're able to release it doesn't have to be crying, you guys. It could be journaling or exercise, any way that you can release, you'll feel a whole lot better. And as Miss Fuller's told, you'll be of more service. You'll be willing to help people. You'll be a whole lot more gracious towards people because you are actually giving that grace to yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, I want to talk about your nonprofit. Let's get into more in hardcore. Launching a nonprofit comes with a whole lot of unique challenges, and it's all over social media right now on why you should never start a nonprofit. How did you navigate those steps though in starting yours?
So, transparency. So I always had One Heart's always been my baby. It's my baby before I push anything out, right? And so I've always had this idea to give back from these lived experiences. Like I said, I have my congenital heart disease, and then I went into healthcare as a trade, and I wanted to be a physician assistant. But One Heart has been my baby. I authored a book called One Heart: The Journey of a Warrior. That was originally supposed to be about my CHD life and what it was going through that journey. But honey, that just turned into a memoir. because I was writing there while life was happening, and you got a little bit of everything in that journal. So I'm going off an actual book about my journey. But One Heart, I navigated that. Like I said, it's always been my baby. And so before it became a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, I held a gala. I was pouring into other families with congenital heart disease. I was talking and connecting and collaborating with other congenital heart disease patients, adult congenital heart disease patients, because there is no space for us. We make the space. And so after a while, I was like, okay, I want this to be a nonprofit because I want to actually bring a community together. And so I did all the legal works. Originally, I connected with a family friend because I was helping them out. And so they did my paperwork, but we did it together. But now I'm consulting other nonprofit founders on how to really start and set the foundation of starting a nonprofit. Because the thing about nonprofits, you mentioned you see a lot of people say, don't start a nonprofit. It's because nonprofit founders are going into starting a nonprofit with passion, not understanding that a nonprofit is a business. And so the same way you would set up a for-profit, you need to set up your nonprofit. It is a business. You need to have your business plan. You need to have your funding. You need to have your your revenue, like how you're going to get it. All of the things that you would do for a for-profit business, you have to do for a nonprofit business, if not more so, because you're relying on reaching out, getting these corporations, getting these sponsors, and really building relationships. And so I've started consulting, and that's really what I'm seeing. I'm like, your passion is great. Your idea is amazing. The foundation is cracking. So we need to go ahead and take a couple of steps back. And so that's really what I did. So I did the paperwork. And for me, I really had to hit the ground running from the beginning. I live in Georgia, so I was down at the Secretary of State building, like, I didn't get my letter yet. What's going on? That's just the type of person that I am.
Right.
And so I wanted to go and do the work, even from the beginning. And so, yeah, I hope I
So
answered the
so
question.
for you being fearless in the mission because I mean it even that going down to your Secretary of State office, that takes courage because
Yeah.
I mean it's the state and these people hold positions of power and it's like, okay, well, we're on their time, so whenever we get, but that even takes courage. So you guys when and she also hit on another great point, which was a lot of nonprofits are literally started off of compassion and passion for whatever the nonprofit is geared towards. But you have to remember that it is a form of a business and
Mhm.
you have to set yourself up in a way to where it will grow over time. Well, not necessarily through profit, but just through outreach even. So you guys, if anybody's out there thinking about starting a nonprofit, Miss Fuller just gave y'all literally the book on how to start one.
Yep. At least set that foundation right. You need your fundamentals is everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now,
Absolutely.
you also have another business that I am truly inspired by, and it's a home care agency.
Mhm.
How did you start this home care agency, and what gap were you originally trying to fill?
Absolutely. So the home care agency actually officially came before the nonprofit. So I always say my nonprofit is my baby, but my home care agency, I filed and made that officially a business before the nonprofit. And it's funny when I've never told this story before, but when I started the home care agency, my family is a family of entrepreneurs. Like I previously said, I I was okay being in the medical field. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be the doctor. I wanted to help people and save lives. And one day I was scrolling on social media, like we always do. I came across a home care agency coach. And she was talking, of course, they tell you about all the millions that you can make. And I was like, "Oh, okay, it's healthcare. I'm interested." And so I ended up going to a conference before I even said I was going to start it. And I went to the conference, I got excited, and I'm like, okay, how do you do this? What does this look like? What is a home care agency? And I was still working at the time, and I was committed on not starting a business because I'm like, it's too much work. Hence the nonprofit being a business. I'm like, it's too much work. I don't know where to start. And I just felt like It's easier for me to go to work and smile than to be responsible for other people in a different it's just a different capacity. However, when the Lord tells you to do something, you're either gonna get up and do it or you're gonna do it.
Right.
Right. And so that essentially is how that came about. So I seen it scrolling on Instagram. I did my research. And the thing about me is I want to do the work so that when it's time to explain how to do the work, I can say I know how to do it. And I say all that to say, even with the consulting that I see, now I have a coach. But you have people who's charging thousands and thousands of dollars, which they should, for your work, for your work. But sometimes I don't need to give you $20,000 when I can go sit in my prayer closet and do my own study and do my own research and I can get it for free.
Man.
And I can't so that's essentially how that turned out because I wanted to throw the $10,000 out there. I didn't know where it coming from because I ain't have it. But the Lord was literally repeatedly like, "You're not going to do it." The Lord and my husband, because He like, "Who you giving money to?" Right? And who you getting it? But I was like, "I want to do it." Like it's well, she's gonna help me set it up. But the Lord was like, "No, like you're not gonna do it. You need to go do the research yourself." And ultimately, what he was doing was preparing me to be a consultant and a coach because that's what I'm doing now. So now people come to me because I know how to write policies and procedures. I wrote my own, right? I know how to start the agency. I did it myself. I know what it looks like when DCH is coming or what it looks like for your foundation to be set, what the banks are looking for. I did it myself. I didn't have somebody do it for me. And so that's really what that looked like. Because at first, who's gonna be an entrepreneur? My mama one, both, all three of my sisters one. That's nuts. You don't need a doctor in the family. That's what I want to do. But I done joined the entrepreneur train. Two. I got two businesses.
Well, your story sounds a lot like mine because I come from a family of females as well. I have two sisters and my mom as well, and all of them in mental health. And when they all started in mental health, I said, I'm not going over there with y'all. There's too many people in one field. We need somebody over here doing something else. And now I can't get mental health off my mind. And it's literally my entire mission now. So when you tell God no, He's definitely gonna make you say yes eventually. So
Absolutely. And then to answer the second part of your question, the gap that I was trying to fill, when you hear about personal home or private home care agencies, it's really geared towards either the elderly and the aging or pediatrics in some capacity. And so originally, I was definitely filling that gap of our elders, our baby boomers, they are growing, right? That is a generation that is growing and you ain't doing nothing to stop it because we only getting older. And so when you think about filling the gap, it's this gap of they're getting older, but us millennials, we working. And so we across town, we across country. We don't got time to be sitting in the house with mama or daddy or grandpa, grandma that came and live with us. Auntie that broke her hip and now she got to be in the house. But that's what we step in. Because we're coming in to give not only you a peace of mind, but we're making sure grandma and mama is safe at home. We taking grandma and mama out to her doctor's appointments, or she want to go play bingo, or mama may live by herself and you live up north and mama down here. Well, we go to mama's house, make sure mama got food in the fridge and she eating. And so that was the gap that we were filling, being that true compassionate, the hands and heart, right? I think of be the hands and feet of Jesus and everything. And so Victory Plus Home Care and Services, which is my home care agency, that is our motto. We are the hands and hearts that you didn't know you need. And that is the gap that we're filling, being there for providing compassion, genuine time, real consideration, and the flexibility is there. So if you just need 2 hours because you want to go out for a date night because you ain't had one in 5 years since mama been in your house, first.
I absolutely love that. And again, thank you for creating something for your community. And well, in my community, we have home care services as well, but they're not going checking on my grandmother, my granddaddy because I want to go on a date. So even that is graceful. And
Yeah.
you learn to do that by giving yourself that grace. So you guys, I mean, that's literally what happens when you learn to check in with yourself, give yourself the grace. You're able to think of all types of scenarios that a lot of
Mm,
people have not thought about, including if maybe that kid just wants to get out the house and go on a date. So,
yeah.
and a lot of people don't think about that, y'all. So, I want to talk about how you balance the operational demands of running a business with the mission driven work of a nonprofit.
Absolutely. So the best way to explain it is I'm still learning how to balance. And that's just being real. I'm always be a student. But as a professional, the most important thing is get a calendar. Get a calendar, get a planner, write it down, and make it as plain as you can and stick to that calendar. Because essentially, that's what I had to do. Because in the beginning stages of my for profit, the home care agency, I'm out with the clients, right? And so, yes, I have employees, but I don't know how to sit my butt down and I want to go be hands and feet of Jesus everywhere. And so I have to stick to that calendar. I have to stick to that schedule. And then, so I'll have my Fridays and my Mondays are exclusively for WONheart. Every other day, I range for the for profit. Do I stick to it? No, we're still working on it in Jesus' name. But I have the idea. So that is like my number one, get a calendar, get a planner, and write it down. It is essential for your sanity and for your business to scale properly. Because if you don't, you're just going to be running in circles because it's chaotic.
And y'all, I'm here to tell y'all, she just gave y'all probably one of the biggest tips for entrepreneurs, business people. It don't matter if you're working a 9 to 5 or you have your
Mhm.
own business. You need a calendar and a planner if you're busy. For me, example, I have 2 podcasts, a child, being a student, a blog. Who can remember everything that's supposed to be done in that one day? So I literally have to keep a planner on my phone and a planner in regular hard copy just to make sure I'm aligning with it. And I color code mine as well. So there's another
Yep.
tip. If you have just one planner or if you just want to keep one calendar and put all your events and things like that on that, color code by different colors. And you can pick your favorite colors. You can pick the basic colors, just pick some colors and remember what those colors are.
Yep. Always have your little key on the side. Yellow mean this. Red
Absolutely.
is urgent.
Absolutely, because I promise you, even if you think that you're gonna remember, I promise you, you won't.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about what were some of the biggest surprises or lessons that business school couldn't teach you when you first started out starting both organizations.
Absolutely. So I will start off with the nonprofit. So the nonprofit, I think the biggest surprise, which is what we always talk about, the idea that a nonprofit is a business. And getting hit with that reality was a surprise. And while I think that they will teach you a little bit about that, it's the reality of this is what it means to actually get collaboration and get sponsorships. That is all community communication and relationships. And they can teach you how to fundraise, they can teach you how to speak. But if you don't have the heart for people to build a relationship properly, if you don't have the structure and discipline for you to be a CEO or to be your chair, there has to be things that you have to take responsibility for. You may not be ready to be a CEO. You may not be the person to sit in your chair as president. And so, again, sitting with yourself, acknowledging who you are and what capacity you hold, those things I don't think can be taught in school. That's some prayer closet conversations. Thus, sitting in the middle of the living room with nothing around you but a journal, right? And then for the for profit, for me, the surprise for me personally, I would say it's hard because of the compassion that I have and because of the background that I have being in healthcare. I always want to serve, I always want to work. The biggest lesson I had to learn, I can't work in the business and work on the business and its scale at the same time. So I either have to be caregiver or CEO. The reality is it's hard to do that in the beginning because you've established this off of this passion for myself, off of this passion, off of this experience. And so now I have to be in CEO mode and say, I'm not going to help a client. I have employees for that. That's hard. That's hard. So I think that those are my biggest two lessons. For the nonprofit, definitely being real with myself and saying, do I have the capacity to sit in this seat? Do I have the capacity to play this role? And then for the for profit, it was you have capacity to sit in that seat and play that role. You just need to get up and do it. Right. And so those are my two lessons, big lessons.
I big lessons, and a lot of times, as you said, we go to school for all these things, and as we're in school learning these things, everybody thinks, "Oh, I'm finna walk out and become a CEO," or "Oh, I'm finna walk out and become the head of an organization." When in reality, as you said, it's one of those things where you need to sit back and assess: Are you ready to step into that big role and handle all that comes with it? You may think you want to be the CEO, but can you actually handle going standing in front of the audience and selling the company? Or you may want to be the CFO, but can you handle large grants and big accounts? So it's one of those things where you have to, as you said, you have to reassess.
Absolutely. And it's hard, especially when you worked in the field. I'm like, I know I can serve them.
Mm,
I know I have the schooling, I have the experience, I have all that I need, and I know my client will need and love, but I can't sit in that seat. I can't sit in two seats at the same time.
absolutely. Okay, so I want to talk about money. How did you say gain funds for your organizations? Was it through grants? Was it through just loans? How did you go about funding?
Absolutely. Very good question. So again, transparency. So I have not yet even gone after grants. And that is so surprising because when you think of nonprofits, everybody always say, go for grants, go for grants, go for grants. I have not gone after grants, not yet. And the few people that I have consulted, I've told them, don't think about grants right now. And I say that because there are so many different diversities of revenue. Grants should not be your number one idea when it comes to a nonprofit or for profit. When you think of nonprofit, everybody is grants, 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 grants. They're amazing. But however, and or two, right? When you get that grant for X amount of dollars, you're also supposed to be telling them how that grant is going to be used. That is a one-time grant for a one-time expense or program or whatever. So when that grant runs out, which it should, because it should have only been for one thing, then what? And so when I think of for the nonprofit, that is your board, right? When we get our board members, we tell them you have a fiduciary duty. That fiduciary duty can be you either paying into the nonprofit, right? You pay a fee, or you're getting sponsors, you're getting donors, you're helping build those relationships. That is going to bring in revenue into the organization. So I didn't even think about grants. I'm now starting to, but even now, like I'm not because my biggest thing is you have to build a relationship. Do the community know who OneHeart is? That is who I want to go to. I want the community to know who OneHeart is. I want the community to find OneHeart and say, oh, that's a good organization. I trust them. Before I go to Coca-Cola and ask them for some money and I ain't never gonna see the CEO of Coca-Cola a day in my life. Sure, give me your money. But it's all about community for me. And so if you think about grants and revenue and sponsorships and all these things, your revenue should be community first. That can be your family. They can give you $5 every month, $100 every month, whatever those little things are. For your nonprofit, your board members should be contributing to your organization in some financial capacity. And then for the for profit, same thing. I didn't really go after grants. What I did for the for profit and for the nonprofit, I established my business credit. I got my DUNS number. I made sure that I had my bank account set up and proper. You want to get those trade lines. That is a big conversation that we should have. Not grants first, but is your organization established properly so that you can get the grants, so that you can get those trade lines, so that your business needs business credit, right? And so that's where we are, like ensuring that our structure and our foundation is set so that when the $100,000 grant do come by the end of the year in Jesus' name, I ain't got no worry because them bank accounts, them trade lines, those other streams of revenues that I have that we, because it's not just me, that the organization and the board have established the relationships, those are pouring in. That grant money is just going to be a one-time addition to that bank account, but that bank account is already established from these
Right.
other sources of revenue.
Oh, I love that. And because when you said it, it completely threw me off when you said, I'm not applying. I haven't applied for grants. Because that's literally what you commonly hear nowadays. Grant,
Mhm,
grant, apply for a grant. So I'm a person who I believe in grants and helping organizations as well. But as you said, you literally have to establish yourself because a lot of times people go out there and apply for grants and as you said, are even established. And
mhm,
grant grant writers and companies actually look at stuff like that. So if you're not even established yourself, how can they trust you with this grant? And another fun fact that you mentioned was grants aren't just free money.
mhm.
One of those things of, and I used to work in auditing. It was one of those things that you got to make sure you're auditing those funds. You got to make sure that you're tracing them, knowing where they're going, because you got to talk back to the people who are giving out the grants and let them know where the money is going to. And the thing is, it can either increase or decrease your chances of getting the next grant. So
Yep.
if you're out here and you're starting a nonprofit or you have a nonprofit and thinking that getting grants just means free money for me to go do whatever, me and Miss Fuller here to tell you that ain't how that works. So let's talk about strategies. What
Mhm.
strategies have helped you attract and retain clients for your in-home care agency?
Absolutely. The number one strategy for me is keep the grace. I am getting out there. I'm showing my face. I am smiling. I am making real connections, relationships, relationships, relationships. That is what really drives and helps your business to thrive, honestly. So I have been getting out there, getting those referral partners, building upon those relationships. And then when I do see my clients, they see me. They know me. They get Delkia, right? They get Mrs. Fuller, but they get Delkia first. And then they understand that, okay, this is Mrs. Fuller, but they get all my energy, they get my authenticity. And that's really what kind of sets us apart, I think, because yes, as a CEO, you have to have some kind of rapport building skill. But I think because this is genuinely me. I'm loud, I'm energetic, I am loving, I am compassionate. That is who I am. And so when I show up in the space, you're getting this, whether you're a referral partner or you're a potential client. And so I think that has really been my driving force and my strategy. Be authentic.
I love that. Because and I'm talking business, I can be very business sense. But once you get to know me, hey, I stutter, I mess up, I make mistakes, and it's like I'm a goofy person too. I like to laugh, I like to have a good time, and a lot of times I'm not even serious when it comes to a lot of stuff. So it like being your authentic self it has opened up many, many, many doors for me as an entrepreneur. So if anybody out there is thinking about starting an entrepreneur journey or currently on it, being yourself can easily bring in that money, bring in those clients that you're out here looking for. You just have to literally be willing to be yourself.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
let's talk about the measurement of success. How do you measure impact and success for One Heart Corporation? And what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs trying to quantify their mission value?
This is a good question, and I have two answers, so I would try to make them concise. When measuring impact on the business side of the nonprofit, your KPIs matter. So whether that's social media touches, how many likes, when they say don't worry about the likes, this can go into your impact statement. How many likes a video makes, how many comments you made, how many interactions have you had? Have you followed up with those people that's commented and reached out and inquired about your organization? So that is how I measure the impact on the business standpoint. How many actual inquiries did we get? Did anybody sign up for our newsletter today? That's how I do it on the business side. Now, on a personal side, I think it ties into the business aspect, but For me, knowing that I really did talk to a family, knowing that we were really able to give food or give a care package or provided moral support. I connected with somebody that I met on Facebook from a Facebook group, right? That is how I measured that moral impact. And it's really just a beautiful thing because it really does come down to the passion of it all and how that impact is visible in the land, right? It's not just, oh, we're a nonprofit, we 501(c)(3). No, did we actually help somebody? Did we actually talk to and make any kind of tangible impact? So that is how I measure that.
I love that. And again, that was too important. You say it was two different opinions, but honestly, I think it all ties in together,
Yep.
one whole, because I mean, you literally have to do that, y'all. And I do that now, and I'm still learning. I'll be honest with you, Miss Fuller. I'm still learning how to do that, balance that business and that personal side. But literally, it comes with growth, y'all.
You do. And trust me, you ain't learning by yourself. We all learning. I'd say all the time, I am always going to be a student. There's always so much to still learn. So
Absolutely. Now, Miss Fuller, I want to get your opinion on stepping into entrepreneurship for the first time. For our listeners out there that are currently listening, how important, in your opinion, is it to align your personal passion with professional opportunities?
it is very important. But so there's a but there. So it's very important because you don't want to have the bus driver cutting open somebody on his operating table, right? And so you want to ensure that your passion is there, that it's aligned in some capacity, because you want to make sure that you're doing the work. Because if you care about something, you're going to be intentional in doing it. If I don't care about it, I don't care about it. So you want to know that I don't care about it. I say, but because a lot of times, take me for example, I didn't think I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I thought my passion of helping and serving was only in the hospital rooms as a clinical personnel. And so, yes, you want to take that passion and you want to make sure that it's aligned, but sometimes you have to look at what you have and say, I can take this and become more. I can take what I have and it can be way more than even I think or I imagine. And so your passion will always be aligned. It's very important to make sure that you're doing something that you care about, but don't minimize what you care about to just one thing. Because my passion was just helping people. That passion turned into two separate businesses, helping two different sets of audiences. And so you don't want to minimize it, but you always want it to be aligned. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes total sense. Again, going back to that whole me not wanting to be in mental health. And,
Yep.
now literally aligning with it, put myself in school, starting the businesses, collaborating with other professionals. I have now made it bigger than just
Yeah.
my and wanting to help people in mental health. I literally turned it into a community of where people can come and feel safe. I'm a big on safe spaces and creating spots for people to be themselves. So as a person who did not have that, I've literally turned that into a real mission and a real purpose for people out here.
Absolutely. And your passion can change. Your passion can grow and expound upon what you thought that initial passion was. Because
Mhm.
sure, your passion could be mental health, but then you got into this field and that passion expanded. And now because you're being intentional, we should always be learning, right? You're being intentional, you're still learning in some capacity. And so now you learn how to write grants. Now you done stepped into cardiology, right? You've taken these experiences that you didn't think was your passion. Like, oh, I have experience with cardiac stuff because I had family members, my dad, when you were telling your testimony, that wasn't your passion originally, but that has been added and expounded upon because you were in alignment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm telling y'all, Miss Fuller, she hitting on all the key points. And I feel like I'm going through a therapy session low key with her because I'm just going on and on and on and on about myself.
No, this is what it's supposed to be about. We're supposed to be connecting. Authenticity.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked about faith consistently throughout today's episode. And I want to talk about it again because faith literally is what drives the mission.
I was gonna say, you ain't tired of me talking about faith. You know,
Now,
that's my favorite topic.
let's throw it.
Has it influenced?
Your business decisions and your leadership styles.
How has it influenced my business decisions? Okay, my business decisions and my faith are one. And what I mean by that is I am all about integrity. I try to remain integral in everything that I do. My leadership style also is an extension to that integrity. However, when you are in faith, you understand that there are different levels of faith. There are different capacities to faith. And so when you're in this entrepreneur journey, you're learning, or you should be seeing, your faith should be growing. Your faith, that capacity should be expanding, because the faith that you needed to start the business may be a different faith that you're going to need to expand that business. Right. And so it has really just kept me in a posture of student. That is the reason why I always say I'm always learning, because there's always something to learn, because I don't know everything. Entrepreneurship is quite new to me. And so I have no choice but to be in my faith. I have no choice but to sit down and be like, okay, God, you're gonna have to do the calendar today. I don't know where to start, right? Or those moments where I'm like, I have to go out and do a consultation for a client, or I may have to go out and make a connection for the nonprofit. Lord, let these words be your words and not mine. Go before me and be with me. That is how my faith shows up. Whether I am at home writing that calendar, scheduling appointments, or getting prepared to go in front of a potential client or a potential funder in some capacity. Because it's not me. I stumble over my words, I freeze up, I'm loud, like, and that can't be in every space. That's not welcome. And so I really have to tap into my faith to say, okay, yes, I'm all about authenticity, but there is a poise in some situations as an entrepreneur. You have to realize, like, you can't go into an auction screaming and yelling. Whether that's your authentic self or not, be demure, how the young folks say.
Yeah.
Be demure and cutesy, right? And so you have to know when to show up. I don't want to say when to show up as yourself, because you should always be showing up as yourself. But there are different capacities. There are different ways that you should show up. And that all has to do with your faith.
And and again, like you again, you hit on it. And all I can really say is amen to what you just said. But it's one of those things of where you do. And what it really is growth. It's like
Yep.
going into an auction and not screaming to the top of your lungs. It's
Yep.
growing throughout the process and trusting the process of
Mhm.
how you are growing. Because as an entrepreneur, I'm here to tell you not, I mean, there are a few out there, but not everybody literally makes $1 million off of their first product.
Mhm.
I can tell you a lot of writers out there took them 3, 4 books before they became a bestseller. So it literally is one of those where even starting the business is fearful. So once you start it, it's one of those things that you have to maintain literally through your faith that it's gonna work out on your behalf. And again, I should have just said amen, but y'all know I always have something to say. So
No, I love the commentary. I love the commentary. Keep the commentary.
now we get closer to the end of today's episode. And I also want to go back to talking about women entrepreneurs for just a second because you've given out so much great advice. I want to get your advice on this as well. For women entrepreneurs who may be facing health challenges or balancing caregiving, even responsibilities, what advice would you give this woman right now?
Knowing that you can rest and the world not crumble. Why? Because you would either have things, trust that what you have set up and aligned is good enough to sustain for a few hours. I'm not even telling you to take a whole day. Take a few hours. It's so important. Cause you ever had one of those, you ever had that situation where you lay down and say, I'm just gonna close my eyes for a little bit. And you wake up and it's the next day, you say, dang, I must have really needed that. Yeah, you did.
Mhm.
And so that is my advice. Give yourself grace and lay down somewhere, as my grandmama would say. Go on and lay down somewhere. But it'll do you some good.
Yes, Lord. Oh, girl, because that's what my grandmama would have said. Go lay down.
Go on, lay down somewhere.
And I'm telling y'all, because I've been there. I tell this story just about on every episode. I was working a stressful job. I literally went to work at 6:30 that morning, had one big giant cup of coffee. That was literally my entire meal all the way to the next day. So it was one of them things where I was stressing myself out so much. I literally lived off of one cup of coffee. And when I finally did crash, I was like, man, I needed that sleep.
I needed that sleep.
And so you guys, you really have to listen to yourself and listen to your body and give yourself that grace. Rest is not a punishment. It's not a service to you. It's not a failure in life. It literally is something that you need to get to the next level to succeed in life, to not burn out. You have to give yourself that rest. And if it literally means just, I mean, it could be hours, it could be a couple of minutes if it need to be,
Yep.
it could be a whole day. If you needed to go and take you a week off, do it.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I promise you, you will feel a whole lot better and a lot more energized, and you'll be ready to run a marathon yet again. Because that's how exactly I was after I had that one good night of sleep.
Mhm. Yep. And that's all it is. Give yourself the worst thing you want to do is for your body to sit you down because you didn't listen to the prompts.
Amen.
So,
Amen. And that's a whole nother topic, y'all, that we can go into about how being stressed, how being traumatized, going through health issues can literally shut your body down. But for the time of today's period,
mhm.
closer to the end, y'all. And before we go, because we always leave with a legacy, and I'll give you a couple of moments to think about this, Miss Fuller. When we look back at your businesses, what legacy do you hope to leave?
When we talk about legacy in both businesses, I want the legacy of One Heart to be community because that's the mission. Care for the caregiver. That is our mission. Short, sweet, and to the point. So I want our legacy to be community and faith, a faith community or a community of faith. And then for the for profit for victory, I want that legacy to be authenticity and grace.
I love those, and we've given you the nickname of being the walking testimony. You out here creating more walking testimonies, but
Mhm.
sadly, our time with Miss Fuller has run short today. But before we go, I am going to get all her information. Let us know how we can sign up for the home care agency, how we can donate to One Heart, how we can sign up for One Heart. Let us know all the details.
Absolutely. Okay. So for the home care agency, you can visit our website and I'll give you this. It's www.victoryhomecs.com. So Victory Home, no S. HOME, C as in cat, S as in Sam.com. You can go there, look at all of our amazing services that we have to offer. Send us an email or contact us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And then for One Heart, you can follow us on all social medias, One Heart Corp, LinkedIn, Facebook. We also have Instagram and TikTok as well. I would just ask that you go like and share and just learn about the amazing things that One Heart is doing. If you would love to volunteer or donate, you can visit our website, www.oneheartcorp.org. Click the donate button and you'll learn and see all the amazing things that we are doing. And also, we are revamping our board. So if you are out there and you would love to be a part of creating impact and strengthening this mission of One Heart, please feel free to reach out to us and learn how you can join our volunteer chair board member. We're looking for someone who specializes in fundraising and outreach communications, someone who specializes in logistics. So you can email us support at oneheartcorp.org.
Oh, I love that, y'all, and she giving out jobs, y'all. She got, y'all hear it, so if your background is in that, contact Miss Fuller. Now, sadly, our time has run short, and I do want to give you the floor for any last words before we adjourn today's meeting.
Absolutely. No, I just want to say thank you so much, Jonte. This was amazing. Thank you so much for your authenticity. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for this platform because there are so many women entrepreneurs specifically who they just need a little bit of motivation. They just need somebody, a safe space, and you are creating that right here. And so I am here to say thank you from the community, and I cannot wait to go along on this journey with you.
Absolutely, and y'all be on the lookout because this is not the last time you have seen a me and Miss Fuller. And with that, we're now adjourning today's meeting. Thanks again to founder and president of One Heart Corp, Mr. Delkia Fuller, for coming on and offer all of her insights. And be sure to subscribe to About Her Business wherever you receive your podcast so you never miss whatever we upload. Also, leave me some comments down in that comment section or which industry you think I should interview next. Until next time, keep those goals tight, that circle tighter, and that bank account growing.